It started small, as these things often do. A few years ago, I moved across the country for work, and that's when the subtle changes in my family's behavior began. My sister Alina always had a way of making everything about money, but I didn't see the pattern until recently. It began with emergency requests: her car needed repairs, her rent was late, or she had an unexpected bill. Being the younger brother who was doing well financially, I wanted to help. My mother Madison would call, telling me how stressed Alina was, how she wasn't sleeping. "You're doing so well, Anthony. Your sister really needs you right now." The emergencies became more frequent. What started as occasional help turned into regular expectations. Alina would call every few weeks, always with a new crisis. If I hesitated, she'd remind me of how she used to watch me after school when we were kids, or how she helped me with my college applications. The guilt trips were subtle but effective. Then came the monthly family support system. Alina suggested it would be easier for everyone if I just sent a fixed amount each month instead of dealing with individual requests. "It's what family does," she said. "We take care of each other." Mom backed her up, saying it would keep us all connected since I lived so far away. I agreed to $800 monthly. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't see the red flags. The amount gradually increased to $1,200 through various justifications: inflation, rising costs, family emergencies. Each increase came with promises of better financial management and claims that it would be temporary. The real eye-opener came last month. I couldn't attend my niece's birthday party due to an important work deadline. I sent a generous gift and promised to visit soon. The response: Alina called furious. "If you really cared about family, you'd make time. The least you could do is increase your monthly support to make up for not being here." That's when my girlfriend Nova noticed something odd on social media. While Alina was demanding more money for basic necessities, she was posting photos of designer purchases and luxury spa weekends. When I mentioned this to my mother, she defended Alina. "Your sister works hard as a single mom. She deserves nice things too. Don't be selfish, Anthony." The monthly payments became directly tied to family contact. If I was late sending money, my calls went unanswered. Family updates stopped. Pictures of my nieces and nephews were withheld. The message was clear: no money, no family connection. Last week, I missed a payment for the first time. I was curious to see what would happen. Alina's response was immediate: "We're really disappointed in you, Anthony. We thought you valued family more than this. Mom's crying thanks to you." I started documenting everything: the requests, the guilt trips, the manipulation. Looking at it all written down, I felt sick. Nova suggested I talk to my cousin David, who had distanced himself from the family years ago. His response was eye-opening: "They did the same to me until I cut them off." It's their pattern, the breaking point. Yesterday, Alina called demanding an explanation for the missed payment. When I expressed concerns about the situation, she laughed. "You're being dramatic. This is what successful family members do. They support the rest of the family. If you stop, don't expect to stay part of this family." I'm sitting here now, looking at years of transaction histories. $800 became $1,000, then $1,200. The total is staggering, but it's not just about the money. It's about the realization that my family sees me as nothing more than an ATM with legs. Nova's been incredibly supportive, helping me see how abnormal this is. "Family love shouldn't come with a price tag," she said. She's right. I'm considering stopping the payments entirely, but I'm worried about losing contact with my nieces and nephews. My younger brother Jack just texted me, asking if we could talk privately tomorrow. He's never asked for money, and we've maintained a decent relationship despite the distance. I have a feeling he might have some insights I need to hear. I know what I need to do, but actually doing it feels impossible. How do you tell your family that their love shouldn't be conditional on monthly payments? How did I let this go on for so long? We'll update after talking with Jack. Something tells me this is about to get much more complicated. Update 1: the conversation with Jack changed everything. We talked for 3 hours last night, and what he revealed made me realize I've been blind to a much bigger pattern. First, thank you all for the support on my last post. Reading your comments helped me feel less crazy about this whole situation. As many of you suggested, I decided to start by reducing the monthly payments instead of stopping them completely. I thought it would be a reasonable compromise. I was wrong. I called Alina last Friday to explain that I needed to reduce the payments to $500 monthly. Before I could even finish explaining, she cut me off with a laugh that made my skin crawl. "Oh, so you're trying to punish us now? Real mature Anthony." I kept my voice steady, explaining my own financial goals and responsibilities. Her response: "Your goals? What about family?" Mom and I have already budgeted your contribution. We can't just change our lifestyle because you're being selfish. That's when I mentioned her recent Instagram posts, the new designer bags, the weekend trips to luxury spas, the expensive restaurants. There was a long pause before she snapped. Are you stalking my social media? That's creepy. And anyway, how I spend my money is none of your business. It is when it's my money, I said. No, once you give it to us, it's our money. That's how family works. I was still processing this conversation when Mom called. She was crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. Alina told me you're threatening to abandon us after everything we've done for you. That's when Jack's revelations started making horrible sense. Apparently, our Uncle David, Mom's brother, had been their primary supporter for years before me. He cut them off after discovering they were manipulating multiple family members for money. Sound familiar? They had him convinced he was the only one helping while simultaneously collecting from 3 other relatives. Jack showed me old family emails he'd saved. The pattern was identical: emergencies, guilt trips, emotional manipulation. They even used the same phrases. This is what family does, and don't expect to stay part of this family. But here's the twist that made me feel physically ill. Jack found their shared budget spreadsheet on Mom's laptop while helping her with computer issues. They've been tracking their income streams from various family members like it's a business. My name was there, along with projected amounts they expected to upgrade me to over the next year. They had me penciled in for $2,000 monthly by Christmas. There were notes about which emotional triggers worked best on each family member. Mine included college application help and childhood memories. They had it down to a science. Nova helped me gather all this information into a folder. Bank statements, screenshots, Jack's evidence. She suggested I speak with a therapist to process everything, which I did yesterday. The therapist helped me see how deeply manipulative this whole system is. I drafted a clear, firm email to both Mom and Alina. No accusations, just facts. I would no longer be sending any monthly payments. I included my boundaries going forward and stated that our relationship needed to be based on genuine family connection, not financial transaction. Their responses came within minutes of each other. Alina: you're dead to us, don't bother trying to see the kids again. Mom: I never raised you to be this cruel. The shame I feel as your mother. Then something unexpected happened. My Aunt Mom's sister called me this morning. Turns out she received similar messages from them yesterday. They'd been working on her for months, setting up the same family support system. She called me after recognizing the pattern from her own experience with pyramid schemes years ago. Jack's standing firm with me. He sent me a recording of Alina trying to manipulate him into taking my place as the family supporter. Her exact words: now that Anthony's shown his true colors, it's your chance to step up as the good son. I've blocked their numbers for now. Nova's helping me process everything. The therapist suggested I might experience a grieving period, and she's right. I'm mourning the family I thought I had, not the one that saw me as an ATM. The hardest part: I found an old video from last Christmas. Everyone's laughing, opening presents. Presents I now realize I basically paid for twice. Once as gifts, once through the monthly payments. Mom's telling stories about how proud she is of her children. The whole thing feels hollow now. Jack just texted that Alina's posting about toxic family members on Facebook, painting herself as the victim. Apparently, she started a fundraiser for emergency family support. The description includes thinly veiled references to me abandoning them. I'm meeting with Jack tomorrow. He says there's more I need to know about their past schemes. Something about previous family estrangements I never knew about. I'm bracing myself for whatever new revelations come next. To those who warned me in the comments of my last post that this would get worse before it gets better, you were right. I just never imagined how much worse. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks since I cut off financial support, and the silence has been deafening. My family has completely shut me out, calls ignored, texts unread, even my holiday card was returned unopened. But their Facebook posts tell a different story, painting me as a heartless son who abandoned them, fueling a fundraiser that's already raised thousands from people who don't know the truth. Then yesterday changed everything. I ran into David, my mother's cousin, who revealed something shocking. This cycle of financial manipulation has been going on for generations. My grandmother used the same tactics on her children, cutting off anyone who stopped paying. My mom learned from the best, and now Alina is carrying on the tradition. Through a separate email, I've connected with relatives who shared their own horror stories. Even Alina's ex-husband reached out, exposing that her manipulation extended beyond family to friends and coworkers. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law, Jack, discovered that they're now targeting his wife's family, using the same guilt trips and emergencies. But the biggest twist, Alina's fundraiser has shifted from family emergency to legal fund. They're now consulting lawyers about grandparents' rights and family support obligations. Next month, I'll be seeing my mother and Alina for the first time at a family wedding. My aunt, who's seen through their lies, encouraged me to bring Nova, saying it's time the family sees what real support looks like. And just this morning, Jack called. He's found something in old family records that could expose everything. His voice was different this time, urgent, almost nervous. Whatever it is, I have a feeling this nightmare is far from over. Finally, update. What started as a simple family dispute unraveled into a decades-long fraud operation spanning multiple generations. Jack's discovery in our grandmother's old storage unit, bank statements, letters, and meticulous records exposed the truth. My mother and Alina hadn't just been manipulating me. They had been running the same con on relatives, friends, and even Alina's coworkers, isolating each victim to make them believe they were the only one helping. The total amount they extracted was staggering. Remember Alina's legal fund? Turns out she had been embezzling from her workplace, convincing coworkers to loan her money using the same emotional manipulation tactics she used on family. I compiled everything: bank records, emails, social media posts, recorded conversations, and victim statements, and sent it to her employer's fraud department and the authorities. I also forwarded years of tax evasion evidence to the relevant agencies. Within days, Alina was terminated. The company is pressing charges. Victims came forward, investigations multiplied, formerly supportive family members scrambled to distance themselves. Alina's fundraiser was shut down for fraudulent claims. Every new one she tried to start, reported, and removed. I made sure everyone they had exploited, family, friends, acquaintances, received copies of the evidence. Their entire support network crumbled as people realized the extent of their manipulation. Jack and I set up a support group for victims, giving them a platform to share their experiences and coordinate legal responses. The stories that emerged painted a horrifying picture of systematic financial abuse spanning decades. Mom called me last week, not to apologize, just to beg me to stop the investigations. "You're destroying your sister's life," she said. I sent her a single screenshot, a spreadsheet where she had tracked and manipulated multiple victims at once. Alina's ex-husband reopened their divorce case after learning she had hidden assets and lied about her finances. He's now seeking full custody of their children, backed by hard evidence of her fraudulent activities. Former friends came forward with their own stories of being manipulated. Local businesses banned them after discovering bad checks and credit card scams. I hired a forensic accountant to trace every penny they had stolen. The resulting paper trail is now in the hands of investigators, making their prosecution inevitable. Meanwhile, Nova and I are moving forward. We're engaged, planning a wedding free of toxic family dynamics. Jack will be my best man. The relatives who stood by me will be there to celebrate. Then yesterday, a letter from Alina arrived, the first direct contact in months. She's facing criminal charges and begged for help. I forwarded it to investigators as additional evidence. Mom's house is in foreclosure. Their entire lifestyle, luxury cars, designer clothes, lavish vacations, was built on fraudulent loans and stolen money. Now it's all gone. The support group continues to grow, ensuring every victim has a voice. Legal advocates are helping victims recover lost funds and pursue justice. I won't say I feel good about how things ended, that would be too simple, but I feel justified. They built their lives on exploitation and deceit. Now they're facing the consequences. Jack called this morning. He heard through family channels that Alina is planning to flee the country to avoid prosecution. I've already notified authorities. Some might say I went too far, that family deserves forgiveness, but this wasn't revenge. This was justice. This was about protecting future victims and breaking a cycle of exploitation that destroyed too many lives. The investigators estimate that over 30 people were scammed across 2 decades. Each victim believed they were alone, hand-picked for manipulation. Nova says I seem lighter now, more at peace. She's right. Breaking free isn't just about escaping manipulation, it's about ensuring the manipulators can never harm anyone else. The legal process will take its course. Alina and Mom will face the consequences of their choices, and I will continue building a life based on real connections, not financial exploitation. The truth, painful as it is always better than living in a web of lies. Jack just texted, "More evidence has surfaced." But that's a story for another day, one that will likely unfold in a courtroom rather than on Reddit. Sometimes breaking free isn't just an act of separation.